Commander Zelkith stood on the bridge of the Vraxian patrol cruiser Times Dominant Talon *, watching the stars drift past the viewport. It was another boring shift in Sector 447, deep in the outer territories where nothing ever happened. His crew moved through their routines with the lazy confidence of soldiers who had never seen real combat. "Commander, I'm getting a strange reading," said Sensor Officer Prix, her voice cutting through the bridge's quiet hum. Zelkith didn't even look up from his datapad. "Define strange. Energy signature, sir." "Big one. But the system keeps glitching when I try to classify it." Now Zelkith paid attention. He walked over to her station and looked at the displays. The numbers made no sense. The energy output suggested something massive, but the displacement readings were off the scale. Nothing in the Vraxian database matched this profile. "Run a diagnostic on the sensors," Zelkith ordered. "Probably just a malfunction." Prix's fingers danced over her console. "Diagnostics show green across the board, sir. The readings are real." Zelkith felt a small flutter of unease in his chest. In 20 cycles of service, he had never seen anything like this. "Get me visual confirmation. Whatever this is, I want to see it." The main screen flickered to life. At first, there was only the black of space and distant stars. Then the computer enhanced the image, and every member of the bridge crew went silent. A ship hung in the void, and it was enormous. The vessel stretched over 4 kilometers from bow to stern, its hull a dark gray that seemed to absorb light. Strange geometric patterns covered its surface, and bright lights ran along its length like veins of fire. The ship wasn't Vraxian. It wasn't Korthian, or Luminari, or any of the other major species. The design was completely alien to their databases. What is that?" whispered Navigation Officer Kelm. Zelkith's mind raced. No one operated capital ships in neutral space. It violated a dozen treaties and trade agreements. More importantly, the Vraxian Empire had eyes on every major shipyard in the known galaxy. A vessel this size couldn't just appear from nothing. "Scan it again," Zelkith said, his voice tight. "Full spectrum analysis. I want to know what we're dealing with." Prix worked quickly, but her confusion was clear. "Sir, the power output alone matches a fleet carrier. The weapon systems are. I can't even identify half of them. And the armor plating is reading as some kind of composite I've never seen before." "Origin?" Zelkith demanded. "Unknown, sir. The computer is trying to match the design to known species. But nothing fits." Zelkith stared at the massive ship on the screen. His training told him to maintain distance and report to command. His curiosity pushed him to learn more. He made a decision. "Open a communication channel. Standard first contact protocols." The communications officer nodded and sent out a broad-spectrum hail. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then the speakers crackled to life with a response that made Zelkith's blood run cold. The voice was artificial, clearly a computer system, but the words were in perfect galactic standard. "United Earth, Expeditionary Fleet. Do not approach within 50,000 kilometers. This is your only warning." "United Earth?" Kelm repeated, his voice confused. "I've never heard of them," but Zelkith had. His eyes went wide as ancient memories surfaced from his academy training. Earth. Humans. The Death World species from the far rim that had barely discovered faster than light travel a few cycles ago. They were classified as primitives, barely worth monitoring. The last intelligence report he'd seen said they had a few colony ships and maybe some light frigates for system defense. This was no light frigate. "Pull up all files on humans," Zelkith ordered. "Everything we have." The tactical display changed to show data files. Zelkith read quickly, and with each line, his confusion grew. According to Vraxian intelligence, humans were dangerous in their own way. They came from a high-gravity world with extreme weather and deadly native life. They were aggressive, creative, and had spent most of their history fighting each other. But they were technologically backward, barely stepping into the galactic community. None of the files mentioned battleships. None of them mentioned weapons that could threaten Vraxian cruisers. And certainly none of them explained how a human vessel was operating deep in Imperial space with the confidence of a major power. "Sir, the vessel is powering up," Prix said urgently. "I'm reading weapons charging and shield generators coming online." Zelkith made the fastest decision of his career. "Helm. Full reverse. Get us back to the jump point now." The Times, dominant Talon Times, turned and accelerated away from the human battleship. No one on the bridge spoke as they watched the massive vessel on their rear sensors. It didn't pursue, but it didn't power down either. It just hung there in space, silent and threatening. When they reached a safe distance, Zelkith opened a priority channel to Imperial Command. His message was brief and urgent. "This is Commander Zelkith of the Times, dominant Talon Times, to Imperial Command. Request immediate strategic assessment. Human Dreadnought-class vessel detected in Sector 447. Classification: unknown. Threat level: unknown. Vessel displays technology far beyond current intelligence estimates. Recommend immediate escalation to War Council. This changes everything." 1. He ended the transmission and looked back at the screen. The human ship was still there, waiting. Zelkith realized with growing dread that the galaxy had made a terrible mistake. They had ignored humanity because the humans seemed weak and primitive. But somewhere, in the dark, between the stars, the humans had been building. And now, they were here, with ships that could challenge empires. The question that burned in Zelkith's mind was simple and terrifying. How many more ships did they have? The emergency session of the Vraxian War Council convened within hours of Commander Zelkith's transmission. Grand Admiral Thaxis entered the council chamber with heavy steps, his ceremonial armor clinking softly in the silence. Around the circular table sat the most powerful military minds in the Empire, and every single one of them looked worried. The holographic display at the center of the table flickered to life, showing the image captured by the Times' dominant Talon asterisk. The human battleship rotated slowly in 3 dimensions, its massive form dominating the room. Council members leaned forward, studying every detail with the intensity of predators sizing up unknown prey. "This cannot be real," said Fleet Commander Vorix, breaking the silence. "Our intelligence reports clearly state that humans possess only primitive vessels. Colony ships. System defense craft. Nothing like this." Intelligence Director Quirix stood, his expression grim. "Our intelligence reports are 80 cycles old. We stopped active monitoring of human space after they achieved basic FTL capability. Our assessment was that they posed no threat and required no further observation." 80 cycles? Thaxis repeated, his voice dangerous. "You're telling me we've been operating blind for 80 cycles? Quirix didn't flinch. The humans were classified as low priority. We focused our resources on the Korthian expansion and the border conflicts with the Selenar Consortium. Standard protocol for primitive species. Thaxis wanted to rage at the incompetence, but he knew Quirix was right. The Empire had limited intelligence resources, and the humans had seemed harmless. It was a logical decision at the time. That made it worse somehow. "Show me everything we know about them," Thaxis ordered. The hologram changed to display files on human history and biology. Thaxis read carefully, and what he saw disturbed him more than the battleship itself. Humans came from Earth, a death world by any standard classification. High gravity, extreme temperature variations, weather systems that could kill unprotected beings in minutes, and native life that hunted in packs. But it was the human wars that caught his attention. The files showed images of mushroom clouds from nuclear weapons, cities reduced to ash, and battlefields where millions had died. Humans had split the atom and immediately used it to kill each other. They had poisoned their own planet with chemical weapons. They had invented flying machines and turned them into bombers within years. "They fight like demons," muttered Commander Jalis from across the table. "Look at this." The file says they have no concept of acceptable losses. They'll sacrifice entire armies to achieve objectives. Junior analyst Varix, the youngest member of the council, spoke up hesitantly. Sirs, there's something else. I've been studying their culture through intercepted broadcasts. Humans do things that make no sense. They keep predators as pets. They eat substances that are toxic to them for pleasure. They throw themselves out of aircraft for entertainment. And their military history shows they never surrender, even when defeat is certain. Madness, Vorik said. Absolute madness. No, Thaxis corrected. Not madness. Adaptation. Deathworlders evolve differently than we do. They don't avoid danger. They conquer it. That's what makes them dangerous. Quirix activated another file. I have worse news. We intercepted human transmissions 3 days ago. Most were encrypted, but we broke some of the civilian channels. The vessel Commander Zelkith encountered. The Times' indomitable asterisk is not alone. It's part of a battle group. 12 ships total. The room erupted in chaos. Voices overlapped as council members demanded answers, proposed strategies, and argued about threat levels. Thaxis let them vent for a moment before slamming his fist on the table. Silence. The room went quiet. We need facts, not panic, Thaxis said. Quirix, tell me about these ships. From what we've gathered, the humans have been building in secret behind their quarantine zone. They used the natural nebula formations around their space to hide construction. Our long-range sensors couldn't penetrate the interference. By the time we realized what was happening, they already had a fleet. Deployment status? Thaxis asked. Unknown. We know of the battle group in Sector 447, but there could be others. Human communication protocols are surprisingly sophisticated. They're using quantum encryption that we're still trying to break. Thaxis considered this. The humans had hidden an entire military buildup from the galaxy's most advanced intelligence network. That spoke to planning, patience, and understanding of how their enemies thought. Not the actions of primitives. What do they want? He asked. Why reveal themselves now? No one had an answer. The doors to the council chamber opened, and every member stood instantly. Emperor Craxus entered, his presence commanding immediate respect. The ancient ruler moved slowly to his seat at the head of the table, his eyes fixed on the hologram of the human battleship. Sit, Craxus ordered, and everyone obeyed. The Emperor studied the image for a long moment. I remember when we first detected human radio transmissions. Simple broadcasts. Primitive technology. That was barely 200 cycles ago. And now this. He gestured at the battleship. Grand Admiral Thaxis. What is your assessment? Thaxis chose his words carefully. Your Majesty, humanity has undergone rapid technological advancement while remaining unobserved. They possess capital ships capable of threatening imperial vessels. Their psychology suggests they are unpredictable and dangerous. However, we don't yet know their intentions. No. Then find out, Craxus said simply. I want to know why that ship is in our territory. I want to know if humanity is expanding. And most importantly, I want to know if they're coming for us. Yes, Your Majesty. I'll mobilize the Third Fleet too. Carefully, Craxus interrupted. We will not provoke a war with an unknown force. Send ships, but make it clear we're observing, not attacking. Open diplomatic channels. If the humans want to talk, we listen. If they want to fight. The Emperor's eyes hardened. Then we'll show them why the Vraxian Empire has endured for 10,000 cycles. Thaxis bowed. It will be done. As the council dispersed to carry out their orders, Thaxis remained behind, staring at the hologram. Somewhere in the dark, humanity was watching. They had built ships in secret, planned their reveal with precision, and now waited to see how the galaxy would respond. The Grand Admiral had fought in 30 campaigns and commanded fleets in a dozen wars. But for the first time in his long career, he felt genuine uncertainty. The humans were an unknown variable in a carefully balanced equation, and unknown variables were the most dangerous thing in warfare. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UESS Times Indomitable Asterisk, her hands clasped behind her back as she watched the tactical display. The massive view screen showed the surrounding star system in perfect detail, with dozens of colored icons representing both friendly and potentially hostile vessels. Her crew moved with quiet efficiency around her, each person focused on their tasks. "Captain, that's the 17th sensor sweep in the last 6 hours," reported First Officer Commander James Okonkwo from his station. "They're definitely watching us." Vasquez allowed herself a small smile. "Good. That's exactly what we want them to do." Good. She had expected this reaction. When humanity decided to reveal itself as a military power, they knew it would send shockwaves through the galactic community. The Vraxians were smart enough to be cautious, which meant they were smart enough to negotiate. That was the plan, anyway. Lieutenant Sarah Zhao looked up from the tactical console. "Ma'am, I'm counting 12 Vraxian warships. Now. They're maintaining a 100,000-kilometer perimeter, but they're definitely building up numbers. Let them watch," Vasquez said calmly. "We're not here to fight, unless they force us to." She walked to her command chair and sat down, calling up a file on her personal display. It was a recording from 3 years ago, and even now it made her angry. The file showed wreckage floating in space near Jupiter, the remains of a Vraxian scout ship that had entered the Sol system without permission. The recovery team had found the ship's data cores mostly intact. What they discovered inside changed everything. Detailed maps of human space, assessment files that classified humanity as primitive and harmless, trade calculations that treated Earth's resources as unclaimed property. And most insulting of all, a cultural database that described humans as barely evolved beyond tribal warfare. The scout ship had been observing Earth for months before a malfunction destroyed it. The Vraxians never came looking for it, which told humanity everything they needed to know. They weren't important enough to search for. They were insects beneath the notice of galactic powers. That day, the United Earth government made a decision. They would not beg for recognition. They would not wait for permission to join the galactic community. They would build a fleet in secret, and when they were ready, they would take their place among the stars whether the galaxy liked it or not. "Engineering. Status report," Vasquez called out. Chief Engineer Maria Ramirez's voice came through the comm system. "All systems green. Captain, the new reactor is running at 98% efficiency. We could maintain combat operations for 6 months without resupply." "Excellent work, Chief," Ramirez chuckled. "The Vraxians are probably losing their minds trying to figure out our power system. Wait until they learn we're running on fusion compression drives. They haven't even theorized yet." Vasquez shook her head, though she was smiling. Humanity hadn't invented anything revolutionary. Fusion power, energy shields, particle weapons, all of that existed in the galaxy already. But humans had a talent for combining existing technology in ways no one else considered. It came from necessity. When you evolved on a planet trying to kill you every day, you learned to be creative, or you died. "Captain, incoming transmission," announced Communications Officer David Park. "It's from the Vraxian flagship. They're requesting formal diplomatic contact." The bridge went quiet. Every eye turned to Vasquez. This was the moment they had been building toward for 3 years. First contact on humanity's terms. From a position of strength. "How polite was the request?" Vasquez asked. Park smiled slightly. "Very polite, ma'am. They used formal diplomatic language and multiple courtesy phrases. They're scared," Okonkwo said quietly. "They don't know what we're capable of. So, they're being careful." Vasquez nodded. "That's the whole point of this exercise. Fear, breeds respect, and respect opens doors to negotiation. She stood up and straightened her uniform. Tell them I'll meet with their representative at the neutral station designated in the treaties. Standard first contact protocols. Yes, ma'am. As Park sent the response, Vasquez walked to the viewport and looked out at the stars. Behind her, the crew continued their work. These were veterans. Every single one of them. They had fought in the belt conflicts when mining colonies went to war over resources. They had served during the Mars pacification, when the Red Planet's independence movement turned violent. They knew combat. And they knew how to stay calm under pressure. Permission to speak freely, Captain? Asked Lieutenant Zhao. Granted. Do you think this will work? The show of force, I mean. What if they decide to attack instead of negotiate? Vasquez turned to face her tactical officer. Then we fight, and we make sure they remember it. But I don't think it will come to that. The Vraxians aren't stupid. They're probably analyzing every byte of data they have on us right now, trying to figure out our capabilities. And the more they learn about human history, the less they'll want to test us in combat. She was right, of course. The Vraxians would find records of the world wars, where millions died over scraps of territory. They would read about nuclear weapons used against cities. They would see footage of human soldiers fighting in conditions that would kill most species. And they would realize that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology. It was stubbornness. Humans didn't know when to quit. It was a survival trait, born from 1,000,000 years of evolution, on a planet that demanded absolute determination. Give up, and the environment killed you. Stop fighting, and predators ate you. Surrender, and your tribe starved. So humans learned never to surrender, never to stop, never to accept defeat until they were physically incapable of continuing. That terrified other species when they finally understood it. Captain, the Vraxians are moving their ships back to 200,000 kilometers, Zhao reported. I think they're giving us space. Smart of them, Vasquez said. She returned to her command chair and pulled up the mission parameters. The Times, Indomitable Times, was officially here for deep space cartography and establishing listening posts. That was true, as far as it went. But the real mission was simpler. Be seen. Be impressive. Be undeniable. Humanity was announcing itself to the galaxy, and they were doing it with the biggest, most advanced ships they could build. The message was clear. We are here. We are strong. And we will not be ignored. All hands, this is the captain, Vasquez said, opening a ship-wide channel. In a few hours, I'll be meeting with representatives of the Vraxian Empire for formal diplomatic contact. This is what we've been working toward. Our mission is to show the galaxy that humanity belongs among the stars. You've all done excellent work, and I'm proud to serve with you. Stay sharp, stay ready, and remember what we're fighting for. Vasquez out. She closed the channel and smiled. Somewhere in Vraxian space, admirals and politicians were panicking. They were scrambling to understand how a primitive species built a battle fleet under their noses. They were wondering how many more ships humanity had hidden away. The answer was enough. More than enough. And soon, the galaxy would learn to take humanity seriously. The neutral station hung in the void between territories, a small diplomatic outpost maintained by the Galactic Council for exactly these situations. Grand Admiral Thaxis arrived with an escort of 20 ships, their weapons powered down but shields active. It was a show of strength and caution, in equal measure. He stood in the docking bay, surrounded by 10 of his best guards, watching the airlock. Captain Elena Vasquez arrived alone. The airlock opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure, and she stepped through wearing her dress uniform. Dark blue with silver trim, medals on her chest, and not a single weapon visible on her person. She walked toward the Vraxian delegation with her head high and her stride confident, as if she owned the station. Thaxis felt his guards tense. They were confused by the human's approach. In Vraxian culture, arriving without guards suggested either supreme confidence or foolish arrogance. Looking at Vasquez's calm expression, Thaxis suspected it was the former. Grand Admiral Thaxis, Vasquez said in perfect Galactic standard, offering a slight bow of respect. Thank you for agreeing to meet. Captain Vasquez, Thaxis replied, returning the bow. Your presence in Vraxian territory has raised many questions. I imagine it has. Shall we discuss this somewhere more comfortable? They moved to a conference room, Thaxis's guards taking positions outside while Vasquez entered alone. The Admiral noticed her heartbeat remained steady, her breathing calm. Either she was an excellent actress, or she genuinely felt no fear. Given what he had learned about humans in the past few days, he suspected the latter. They sat across from each other at a simple table. Thaxis activated a holographic display, showing a star map. Let us be direct, Captain. Your vessel is operating deep in Imperial space, without authorization. Your species was classified as primitive and limited to your home system. Yet you appear with a warship that matches our best capital ships. Explain. Vasquez leaned back in her chair, completely relaxed. Your intelligence was outdated. Humanity has been expanding and developing for the past several decades. We chose not to announce ourselves until we were ready. Ready for what? To be taken seriously. The bluntness of her answer caught Thaxis off guard. Most species would have offered diplomatic excuses or flowery language. Vasquez just stated her purpose as simple fact. You could have requested diplomatic recognition through proper channels, Thaxis said. Why this aggressive approach? Vasquez smiled, and it wasn't entirely friendly. Admiral, let me tell you what we found 3 years ago. A Vraxian scout ship entered our home system without permission. We recovered its data cores. Do you know what they said about us? Thaxis remained silent. They classified us as pre-industrial primitives, barely worth monitoring. Our resources were listed as unclaimed assets. Our culture was described as tribal and violent. The files suggested that whenever humanity advanced enough to be useful, the Empire would simply integrate us. No negotiation. No choice. Just absorption. That was an assessment, not policy, Thaxis said carefully. Was it? Because from our perspective, it looked like the Empire was planning to treat us like children who didn't know what was good for them. Vasquez leaned forward. Humanity learned a long time ago that respect isn't given freely. It's earned. So we built ships, trained crews, and developed technology. Now we're here, and you're negotiating with us as equals. That's exactly what we wanted. Thaxis studied the human woman across from him. She was young by his standards, probably barely into her 4th decade, but her eyes held the weight of someone who had seen combat and death. The scars on her hands were faint but visible, the marks of someone who worked with their hands as well as their mind. What does humanity want? He asked. Trade partnerships, mutual defense agreements, recognition as a sovereign power. The same things any species wants. And if we refuse? Vasquez's expression didn't change. Then, humanity continues expanding on its own. We establish our own trade routes, our own alliances, our own territory, with or without Vraxian approval. That sounds like a threat. It's a statement of fact. We're not asking permission to exist, Admiral. We're offering you the chance to shape how we exist in relation to your empire. Partnership or separation. Your choice. Thaxis felt a grudging respect for the human's directness. She wasn't playing diplomatic games or dancing around the truth. She was stating her position clearly and letting him make his decision based on facts rather than assumptions. I've been studying your species, Thaxis said. Your history is remarkable. And disturbing. You've fought wars that killed millions. You've created weapons capable of destroying your own planet. You've survived conditions that would kill most galactic species. Tell me, Captain, should I be afraid of humanity? Vasquez considered the question seriously. That depends on whether you're planning to be our enemy. Humans are loyal friends and terrible enemies. We don't start fights. but we finish them. We value peace, but we're very, very good at war. Your vessel, the Time's indomitable asterisk. How many ships like it does humanity possess? Enough. That's not an answer. Vasquez smiled again. No, it's not. But it's the only one you're going to get. Would you prefer to never find out the exact number, Admiral? Or would you like to test our strength and risk losing ships finding out? Thaxis understood the game now. Vasquez was offering uncertainty as a weapon. The Vraxian Empire could attack and discover humanity's true strength through combat, or they could accept humanity's claims and avoid the risk. It was clever psychology. We intercepted some of your transmissions, Thaxis said. Your battle group consists of 12 ships. That's hardly a fleet. That's one battle group, in one sector, operating openly. Vasquez's eyes gleamed. How many other groups do you think we have operating quietly in different regions? How many ships are still under construction in our shipyards? How many weapon systems are we testing that you don't know about? She was bluffing. She had to be. But Thaxis couldn't be sure. And that uncertainty was exactly what she wanted to create. You're asking me to negotiate from a position of ignorance, Thaxis said. I'm asking you to negotiate from a position of wisdom. You're a military man, Admiral. You understand the cost of war. Every ship destroyed, every soldier killed, every resource spent on conflict is a resource not spent on advancement. Humanity is offering you a choice. Work with us, and we both benefit. Fight us. And even if you win, you'll pay a price you might not want to afford. Thaxis stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. His mind worked through the calculations. Humanity was small compared to the Empire. But they were technologically advanced and apparently willing to fight if pushed. A war would be expensive and potentially lengthy, and there were other threats in the galaxy that required the Empire's attention. I cannot make this decision alone, Thaxis said finally. I need to consult with the Emperor and the War Council. Of course, take your time. The Time's indomitable times isn't going anywhere. How long will you remain in our territory? Vasquez stood as well. As long as necessary. We have supplies for 6 months of independent operation. Longer if we need to ration. 6 months. Thaxis filed that information away. Whatever power system the human ship used, it was efficient beyond anything the Empire currently possessed. That alone made humanity valuable as potential allies. I'll return to the capital and present your offer, Thaxis said. But I want your word that there will be no hostile action while negotiations continue. You have it. Humanity doesn't want war, Admiral. We just want respect. As they walked back to the docking bay, Thaxis asked one more question. What will you do if we reject your offer? Vasquez stopped and looked at him directly. We'll expand in different directions. Form alliances with other species. Build more ships. And eventually, the Empire will have to deal with a much stronger humanity. Better to negotiate with us now while we're still willing to be flexible. They parted with formal bows. Thaxis watched Vasquez return to her shuttle, alone and unafraid. As he boarded his own ship, his mind was already composing his report to the Emperor. Humanity was dangerous, not because they were violent, but because they were smart, determined, and utterly convinced of their own worth. They had taken the galaxy's dismissal and turned it into motivation. And now they were here, forcing ancient powers to acknowledge them. The galaxy would never be the same. News spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Humanity had a battle fleet. The primitive Deathworlders from the Outer Rim were operating capital ships in major territorial zones. Within days, every government, corporation, and military organization knew about the Times, indomitable Times, and its encounter with the Vraxian Empire. The reactions varied wildly. On the peaceful world of Luminar, the Council of Scientists gathered in their crystal halls to debate the news. Elder researcher Vixana examined the limited data available on human ships with fascination rather than fear. "Look at these energy signatures," she said to her colleagues. "The humans have managed to miniaturize fusion compression technology that we've only achieved in laboratory settings. How did they do it so quickly?" "Necessity," replied junior scientist Kelman. "I've been reading about their homeworld. Earth is classified as a Category 9 death world. They evolved under constant pressure. Their technology development isn't elegant, it's practical. They combine existing knowledge in ways we'd never consider, because we don't have to. Should we be concerned about their military presence?" Vixana considered the question. "The humans haven't attacked anyone. They're simply demanding recognition. I propose we reach out with offers of scientific exchange. If they're this advanced in engineering, imagine what we could learn from their perspective." The Luminari voted to send diplomatic envoys to human space. They were scientists first, and the opportunity to study a species that had climbed from stone tools to fusion drives in mere millennia was too valuable to ignore. On the war moons of the Korthian Hive, the reaction was different. Hive Lord Zarthok watched, intercepted human military transmissions with growing unease. The Korthians were warriors, bred for combat across countless generations. They respected strength and dismissed weakness. "Play that section again," Zarthok ordered. The transmission replayed. 2 human officers discussing a training exercise. The relevant part made Zarthok's mandibles click nervously. "Acceptable casualties for this operation are estimated at 20%. 20%? That's almost a full battalion. Command says it's within acceptable parameters for a successful mission." Zarthok turned to his war council. "Did you hear that? They consider losing 1/5 of their forces acceptable. Not preferable. Acceptable. They're more ruthless than we anticipated," said War Leader Krex. "Most species try to minimize casualties. Humans just calculate them into their strategy. Find out everything you can about human combat doctrine," Zarthok ordered. "I want to know how they fight, how they think, and most importantly, what would make them stop fighting. We need to understand this species before we encounter them." The Korthian Hive quietly updated their strategic maps, marking human space as a zone to approach with extreme caution. Meanwhile, the UESS Times Indomitable Times continued its mission in Vraxian territory. But it wasn't alone anymore. Every few days, another human vessel appeared in a different sector. The UESS Times Perseverance Times was detected near the Luminari border. The UESS Times Defiance Times appeared in neutral trade zones. The UESS Times Resilience Times was spotted conducting surveys in unclaimed space. Each ship followed the same pattern. Operate openly. Respond politely to hails. Make no aggressive moves. But demonstrate clearly that humanity had the technology and will to defend itself. Galactic news networks struggled to keep up with the sightings. Analysts debated endlessly about how many ships humanity actually possessed. Estimates ranged from 20 to over 100. No one knew for certain, and humanity wasn't telling. Captain Vasquez received daily reports on the galaxy's reactions from her intelligence officers. She read them with satisfaction. The plan was working perfectly. Humanity had gone from ignored primitives to a species that demanded attention. Empires were updating their strategic assessments. Trade guilds were inquiring about potential partnerships. Even aggressive species like the Korthians were being cautious. "Captain, incoming transmission from Earth," announced Communications Officer Park. "It's Admiral Chen." Vasquez smiled. Admiral Chen was her mentor and the architect of humanity's reveal strategy. "Put her through." Quote, the holographic display showed an older woman in full naval uniform, her gray hair pulled back severely and her dark eyes sharp with intelligence. "Captain Vasquez, I've been reading your reports. Excellent work. Thank you, Admiral. The Vraxians are still negotiating, but I think they're leaning toward partnership rather than confrontation. Good. Because I have new orders for you. You're being promoted to Rear Admiral and given command of the First Contact Fleet. The Times, Indomitable Times, will be your flagship. Vasquez felt a surge of pride. I'm honored, Admiral. You've earned it. You did what we asked. You showed the galaxy that humanity can't be ignored. Now comes the harder part. We need to build real relationships with these species, turn fear and respect into cooperation and trade. I understand. Chen's expression softened slightly. How are you holding up? This has been intense. Vasquez glanced around her bridge, where her crew worked efficiently at their stations. I'm good. The crew is solid. We knew what we were signing up for. Juan. Ever. You've changed the galaxy, Elena. I hope you realize that. 2 months ago, humanity was a footnote in galactic databases. Now, we're a factor in strategic planning across multiple empires. That's because of what you and your crew accomplished. After the transmission ended, Vasquez stood and walked to the viewport. Outside, the stars gleamed against the black. Somewhere out there, the Vraxian Empire was debating humanity's future. Other species were watching and wondering what these aggressive Deathworlders wanted. The answer was simple. Humanity wanted the same thing every species wanted: survival, prosperity, and the freedom to chart their own destiny. They just weren't willing to beg for it. 3 days later, Grand Admiral Thaxis sent an official communication. The Vraxian Empire was prepared to open trade negotiations and discuss mutual defense agreements. They recognized humanity as a sovereign power with legitimate territorial claims. The message was formal and carefully worded, but the meaning was clear. The Empire was choosing partnership over conflict. Vasquez immediately ordered her communications team to send the news back to Earth. Within hours, similar messages came from the Luminari and several smaller governments. The galactic community was opening its doors to humanity, not out of charity, but out of recognition that the humans had forced their way to the table. In the capital chambers of Vraxis Prime, Emperor Craxus watched human ships patrol what had been neutral zones just weeks ago. His advisors presented reports on the diplomatic progress, trade opportunities, and strategic advantages of alliance with humanity. We ignored them because they seemed weak, Craxus said quietly to Thaxis. We looked at their primitive technology and slow development and assumed they were no threat. Yes, Your Majesty. But we failed to account for their potential. They didn't evolve on a gentle world like ours. They clawed their way up from a planet that tried to kill them every day. That made them creative, determined, and very dangerous. Should we be concerned about them long-term? Craxus was silent for a moment. Yes, but not as enemies. As competitors. Humanity will continue to grow and develop. In 100 cycles, they might rival us. In 200, they might surpass us. But that's true of any species. The question is whether we want them as allies during that growth, or whether we want to face them as strangers when they're even stronger. The War Council recommends alliance. As do I. Craxus gestured at the tactical display showing human ships. They've proven they can build and fight. Now, let's see if they can negotiate and cooperate. If they can, they'll be valuable partners. If they can't, we'll deal with that when necessary. Aboard the Times, Indomitable Asterisk, now redesignated as the flagship of humanity's first contact fleet, Rear Admiral Elena Vasquez sat in her ready room, writing her final log entry of the mission. We came to the stars carrying the weight of human history. Every war we fought, every mistake we made, every triumph we achieved. The galaxy looked at us and saw primitives. They were wrong. We're not primitive. We're practical. We're not weak. We're careful about when we show our strength. Today, humanity took its place among the galactic powers. Not because we asked nicely, not because we waited for permission, but because we built the ships, trained the crews, and showed the galaxy that we belong here. This is just the beginning. The hard work starts now. Building trust, establishing trade, proving that we can be partners and not just warriors. But we've already accomplished the most important thing. We made them acknowledge us, and they'll never forget we're here. She filed the log entry and looked at the star map on her wall. Dozens of human ships were scattered across multiple sectors now. Each one, a statement of intent. Humanity was expanding, exploring, and establishing itself as a galactic presence. The age of hiding was over. The age of expansion had begun. And the galaxy would have to make room for the species from the death world, whether they liked it or not. Outside the viewport, stars gleamed with promise and possibility. Humanity had fought for millennia to survive on its hostile homeworld. Now those same survival instincts were driving them to the stars, and nothing in the galaxy was going to stop them.
The day the aliens came, the sky turned dark, not from clouds but from massive ships that blocked the sun. Commander Olivia Martinez looked up from the deck of the USS Defiant and felt a chill run through her body. After years of wondering if humans were alone in the universe, they had their answer, and it wasn't friendly. "Commander, we have multiple objects entering Earth's atmosphere," said Lieutenant Greg Foster, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. "They're positioning over major cities worldwide." "Get me Admiral Peters," Olivia ordered. She brushed her dark hair from her face and stared at the main screen. The massive ship above them seemed to swallow the sky. It was shaped like a flat disk with strange markings along its sides. Lights pulsed across its surface in patterns that made no sense to human eyes. Admiral Peters appeared on screen. His face was grim. "Martinez, I assume you're seeing what we're seeing." "Yes, sir." "Orders. Maintain position but do not engage. All military forces worldwide have been ordered to stand down until we understand their intentions. The President is attempting communication. The aliens gave them 3 days of silence. 3 days where the ships just hovered, watching. People panicked. Some fled the cities. Others stayed and waited. The military moved into position but did nothing. What could they do against ships that size? On the 3rd day, a message came through on all channels, in perfect English. "We are the Siraxian Empire. Your planet is now under our control. Surrender or be eradicated." Admiral Frank Johnson, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, received the message at the Pentagon. His weathered face showed no emotion as he relayed the information to world leaders. "They want an answer within 24 hours, he said to the emergency United Nations session. "And they've demonstrated their power by disabling our satellite network with some kind of pulse." In a secret facility beneath Houston, Dr. Samuel Carter hadn't slept for days. The NASA physicist had been studying the strange radiation patterns coming from the alien ship since they arrived. "There's something odd about these readings," he told Lieutenant Grace Miller, who had been assigned to help him. She was the best cryptography specialist in the Navy, with a knack for finding patterns where others saw chaos. Grace looked at the data scrolling across the screen and frowned. "It's almost like they're leaking energy somewhere." Samuel nodded eagerly. "Exactly. Their technology is advanced, but it's not perfect. The radiation signature suggests their shields operate on a frequency that could be disrupted." "By what?" Grace asked. "Nothing we have could put a dent in those ships." Before Samuel could answer, the ground shook. A distant boom echoed through the facility. "They've started," Samuel whispered. "We're out of time." Above ground, the Siraxian ships had begun their attack. They targeted military bases first, firing beams of intense blue light that turned everything they touched to ash. Conventional weapons fired back but bounced harmlessly off invisible shields surrounding the alien vessels. The USS Defiant, now positioned in the Pacific Ocean, launched its full arsenal at the ship hovering above San Francisco. Missiles exploded against the shield, creating beautiful but useless bursts of light. "Nothing's getting through," shouted Weapons Officer Ryan Clark as he watched the monitors. "Not even a scratch." Commander Martinez gripped the edge of the command console. "Keep firing. We need to buy time." "For what?" Ryan asked. "These things are unstoppable." Olivia thought about what she had learned from her brief communication with Dr. Carter before the attack began. "Maybe not. We just need to find their weak spot." In Houston, Samuel and Grace worked frantically. The facility shook with each distant explosion, dust falling from the ceiling. "If we can identify the exact frequency their shields operate on, Samuel explained while typing furiously. "We might be able to disrupt it. It's like finding the right note to shatter a wine glass." Grace pointed to a pattern in the data. "There. Every 7 minutes there's a spike in the radiation. Small, but it's consistent." Samuel's eyes widened. That could be a cycling pattern in their shield generators. If we could hit them with a matching electromagnetic pulse during that spike, we might create a feedback loop, Grace finished. But how do we generate a pulse that powerful? Samuel smiled for the first time in days. "We don't need to generate it ourselves. We can use their own communication system against them." They worked through the night even as the world burned above them. By morning they had a plan. Samuel called Admiral Johnson on a secure line that still functioned. "Sir, we have something," he said. "But we'll need to coordinate with whatever forces we have left." Admiral Johnson looked at the map showing the devastation across the globe. Nearly half of Earth's military forces had been destroyed. Millions were dead or missing. But humanity wasn't giving up. "Tell me what you need, Doctor." While Samuel explained his plan, Commander Martinez and the crew of the USS Defiant continued their seemingly hopeless battle. Their ship had taken heavy damage but remained operational. They had managed to save thousands of civilians by drawing fire away from populated areas. "Commander," called Communications Officer Ben Riley, "I'm getting a priority message from Admiral Johnson." Olivia listened to the instructions and felt a spark of hope for the first time since the invasion began. "Change of plans," she told her crew. "We're not trying to destroy that ship anymore. We're going to help hack it." The plan was daring. Earth's remaining satellite network would be reconfigured to broadcast an electromagnetic pulse at exactly the frequency of the Cyraxian shield's weak point. Meanwhile, ships like the Defiant would transmit the same pulse from the ground. The combined effect might be enough to create the feedback loop Dr. Carter had predicted. "It's not guaranteed to work," Samuel told Grace as they finished the final calculations. "But it's the best chance we have." Grace looked at the scientist with determination in her eyes. "The Cyraxians made one big mistake when they attacked us." "What's that?" Samuel asked. "They thought we would just roll over and die. They don't understand humans at all." As night fell on the third day of the attack, Earth prepared its first real counterattack. The Cyraxian Empire had conquered 17 star systems before reaching Earth. They expected this planet to be their 18th conquest. They were about to learn why underestimating humanity was the last mistake they would ever make. The world changed overnight. Cities burned. Governments fell into chaos. But humans did not give up. They fought back in any way they could. Captain William Harris wiped sweat from his forehead as he looked at the screens in the underground bunker in Colorado. As leader of America's remaining cyber defense division, he had been working non-stop since the attack began. His team of 20 specialists had been joined by experts from other countries. They all had the same goal: find a way to stop the aliens. "Captain, we've got a secure call from Houston," said Lisa Patel, a brilliant computer expert who had been working for Google before the invasion. Now she used her skills to help save humanity. William nodded and picked up the phone. On the other end was Dr. Samuel Carter, who explained his discovery about the alien shields. "So you're saying there's a weak point every 7 minutes?" William asked. "Yes," Samuel replied. "But we need more than just that knowledge. We need to understand their whole system better. And we need a way to get our signal inside their network." William thought for a moment. "There might be a way. We've received reports of a crashed alien scout ship in Arizona. If we could get to it, we might find what we need." Samuel agreed. They needed that ship. William called Admiral Johnson, who quickly approved a mission to recover whatever they could from the crash site. Major Alan Rodriguez was chosen to lead the mission. He had been a Special Forces commander before the invasion. Now he led a team of 6 soldiers toward the Arizona desert where the alien ship had crashed. "Remember, we need the communication systems intact," Alan told his team as they approached the site. "Be careful with your weapons." The crashed ship was smaller than the massive vessels in the sky. It had hit the ground hard, leaving a trail of strange metal pieces for half a mile. Steam still rose from its broken hull. "No signs of life," said Sergeant Joe Wilson, scanning the area. "Looks like the pilots didn't survive the crash." They moved carefully into the ship. The inside was strange, with curved walls and soft, pulsing lights. The air smelled like metal and something else they couldn't name. In what seemed to be the control room, they found what they were looking for. The communication system was damaged, but mostly intact. Alan carefully removed the main components, while his team searched for anything else useful. "Major, over here," called Private Emma Lewis. She had found the body of an alien pilot. It was humanoid, but clearly not human. Its skin was pale blue and it had 4 arms. Most interesting was its thin frame. "They're not built for high gravity," Alan observed. "Earth's gravity must be stronger than what they're used to." This was valuable information. The aliens had better technology, but humans might be physically stronger. Every advantage mattered now. While the team worked in Arizona, Commander Olivia Martinez and the USS Defiant continued their fight. They had managed to save more civilians by drawing alien fire. The ship had taken heavy damage, but the crew refused to abandon their mission. "Commander, we've just received new orders," said Ben Riley. "Admiral Johnson wants us to position our ship here." He pointed to a spot on the map near a Siraxian vessel. "That puts us right in their firing range," said Ryan Clark. "Exactly," Olivia replied. "We're the bait. We need to keep their attention while others work on the real plan." The crew understood what this meant. They might not survive, but they would give others a chance to succeed. Back in Houston, Samuel and Grace received the components from the alien ship. They worked with Lisa Patel, who had flown in from Colorado to help. "Their communication system is amazing," Lisa said as she studied the alien technology. "It's like nothing we've ever built." "But not perfect," Samuel added. "Look at this." He pointed to a part of the system that showed signs of overheating. "They have cooling problems. Their technology runs hot." Grace nodded. "That fits with the energy leak we detected. Their shields must generate enormous heat." They worked together to understand how the alien system operated. After hours of study, Lisa made an important discovery. "I think I know how their network functions," she said, excitedly. "It's all connected. Every ship communicates with all the others all the time." "Like a hive mind?" asked Samuel. "More like a military chain of command, but yes, they're constantly sharing information." "That could be useful," Grace said. "If we could get into one ship's system, we might affect them all." Samuel's eyes lit up. "That's it. We don't need to attack each ship separately. We just need to get our signal into one ship and it will spread through their whole network." The plan was coming together, but they needed a way to deliver their signal directly to an alien ship. Using Earth satellites wouldn't be enough. Chief Engineer Patricia Simmons had an idea. She had been working with the alien components to build a special transmitter. "If we could get this close enough to one of their ships, it could work," she explained. "It would amplify our signal and match it perfectly to their frequency." "But how do we get it that close?" asked Grace. Admiral Johnson called a meeting with all key personnel. Samuel, Grace, Lisa, William, Alan, Patricia, and Olivia joined via secure channels. They discussed what they had learned and what they needed to do. "We need a team to infiltrate one of their smaller vessels," the Admiral said. "Based on what Major Rodriguez found, we know their ships have maintenance ports where smaller craft dock. That's our way in." Lieutenant Commander Eric Barnes volunteered immediately. He was a pilot who had flown experimental aircraft before the invasion. "I can fly anything," he said confidently. "Even an alien ship if I have to." A small team was formed. Eric would lead, with communications specialist Diana Wright and 2 others. Their mission was simple but extremely dangerous. Get the transmitter onto an alien ship and activate it. While preparations for this mission began, the fight continued around the world. Humans used everything they had against the invaders. Most attacks failed, but they learned from each failure. They discovered that the aliens struggled in Earth's gravity. They found weak points in alien armor. Each small victory gave them hope. Samuel, looked at the final calculations for their plan. If it worked, they might save Earth. If it failed, humanity would likely perish. He felt the weight of this responsibility as he prepared the signal that would be sent through the transmitter. "Are you ready?" Grace asked him. Samuel nodded. "As ready as we'll ever be. The question is, are the Siraxians ready for us?" Grace smiled grimly. "I don't think they have any idea what they've gotten themselves into by attacking Earth." The countdown to humanity's real counterattack had begun. The plan was named Operation Trojan Horse. Its success depended on getting humans onto an alien ship without being discovered. It was dangerous, maybe impossible, but they had to try. Lieutenant Commander Eric Barnes studied the information gathered from the crashed scout ship. He needed to understand everything about Siraxian technology before the mission began. "Their ships dock here," he said, pointing to a diagram they had created. "These maintenance ports are our way in. They're designed for small repair craft." Diana Wright nodded. She was the best communications expert in the Navy and would be responsible for planting the transmitter. "Once we're inside, I'll need at least 5 minutes to set up the device and link it to our network." The other two members of the team were Sergeant Kelly Thompson, a Marine with combat experience, and Paul Martinez, an engineer who understood the alien technology better than most. They all knew the risks, but were ready to face them. "The hard part will be getting close enough," Eric said. "We can't just fly up to them." Admiral Johnson had a solution. "We've modified a captured alien scout craft. It's not perfect, but it should get you close enough." The scout craft had been rebuilt using parts from the crashed ship in Arizona. It looked strange and barely functional, but it was their only chance to approach the aliens undetected. Meanwhile, Chief Engineer Patricia Simmons worked day and night to perfect the transmitter. It needed to be powerful enough to amplify the electromagnetic pulse that would disrupt the alien shields. "I've added a timer," she explained to Dr. Carter. "Once activated, the team will have 20 minutes to get off the ship before the pulse begins." Samuel looked concerned. "That's not much time. It's all I can give them. Any longer and the aliens might detect the device." Across the world, military forces prepared for the final phase of the plan. They would launch a coordinated attack on all Siraxian ships, not to defeat them but to distract them. Every remaining fighter jet, missile, and ship would be used. Commander Olivia Martinez received her orders on the USS Defiant. "We'll lead the naval attack," she told her crew. "Our job is to keep their attention while the team gets on board." The crew was tired and their ship was damaged, but no one complained. They knew what was at stake. The night before the mission, Eric met with his team. They reviewed the plan one last time and checked their gear. They would each carry only what was absolutely necessary: weapons, communication devices, and the transmitter itself. "If anything goes wrong, remember the primary objective," Eric said. "Plant the transmitter. Everything else is secondary." Kelly checked her weapons. "What about extraction? How do we get off once the job is done?" "We use the same ship we came in on," Eric replied. "But if that's not possible, we improvise." Diana looked at the transmitter. It was smaller than she expected, about the size of a laptop computer. "This little thing is supposed to save the world?" Paul smiled. "Sometimes the smallest tools make the biggest difference." Morning came too quickly. The team boarded the modified scout ship. It was cramped inside, with barely enough room for 4 people. The controls were alien, but Eric had spent days learning how to operate them. "Everyone ready?" he asked. They nodded. There was nothing more to say. The scout ship launched from a hidden base in the Rocky Mountains. It climbed high into the atmosphere, heading toward one of the smaller Siraxian vessels positioned over Denver. The alien ship was still massive, compared to their tiny craft, but it was much smaller than the main warships. "Approaching docking area," Eric said quietly. "No signs they've detected us yet." He guided the scout ship carefully toward a maintenance port. The aliens used automated systems for docking, which made their approach easier. The scout ship's communication system, salvaged from the crash, sent the correct signals to the port. "It's working," Diana whispered. "They think we're one of them." The docking mechanism engaged, pulling their ship into the alien vessel. They felt a slight bump as they connected. Then silence. "We're in," Eric said. "Kelly, take point." Kelly moved to the airlock, weapon ready. When the door opened, she peered out cautiously. The alien corridor was empty, bathed in a pale blue light. "Clear," she said. They moved quickly through the ship, following the route they had planned based on the crashed Scout's layout. The interior was strange, with curved walls and floors that seemed to shift slightly under their feet. The air was thinner than Earth's, making breathing more difficult. "This way," Paul said, checking a small device that detected energy signatures. "The main communication hub should be one level up." They found an access tube that connected the decks. As they climbed, they heard alien voices above them. Kelly signaled for everyone to stop and be quiet. 2 Syraxians passed by, talking in their strange language. They were tall and thin, with 4 arms and skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. They moved awkwardly, struggling against Earth's gravity even inside their own ship. When they were gone, the team continued climbing. They reached the upper level and moved toward the communication hub. So far, they had been lucky. No alarms had sounded. The communication hub was a large room filled with equipment that pulsed with light. Strange symbols flowed across screens, and the air hummed with energy. "This is perfect," Diana said. "I can connect the transmitter directly to their main system here." She got to work while the others stood guard. Paul helped her understand the alien technology, pointing out connection points and power sources. Eric watched the door and Kelly patrolled the perimeter of the room. "How much longer?" Eric asked after a few minutes. "Almost there," Diana replied. "Just need to link it to our network and set the timer." Suddenly, Kelly raised her hand in warning. "Someone's coming." They barely had time to hide before 3 Syraxians entered the room. The aliens moved to different stations and began working with the equipment. They hadn't noticed the humans yet, but it was only a matter of time. Kelly made a quick decision. She stepped out from her hiding place and attacked. The Syraxians were caught by surprise. They were taller than humans but weaker in Earth's gravity. Kelly took down the first one with a swift blow to what seemed to be its head. The other aliens reached for weapons, but Paul and Eric joined the fight. It was quick and almost silent. When it was over, all 3 aliens were on the floor, unconscious or dead. "Hurry," Eric said to Diana. "Someone will notice they're missing." Diana worked frantically to finish connecting the transmitter. "Done," she said finally. "Timer set for 20 minutes. That's all the time we have to get out of here." They moved quickly back the way they had come. But as they reached the access tube, alarms began to sound throughout the ship. The aliens had discovered either the unconscious Syraxians or the transmitter. "Run," Eric ordered. "Back to the ship. Now." They raced through the corridors, no longer trying to hide. Several aliens appeared ahead of them. Kelly fired her weapon, and the aliens fell back. But more were coming. "We're not going to make it to the ship," Paul said as they took cover in a side corridor. "Yes, we will," Eric replied. "We just need a distraction." Outside the alien vessel, the coordinated attack had begun. Commander Martinez led the USS Defiant in a direct assault on the Syraxian ship's lower section, drawing its fire away from the maintenance ports. "Keep their attention on us," she ordered her crew. "Give our team the time they need." The distraction worked. Most of the aliens focused on defending against the external attack, giving Eric and his team a chance to reach their ship. "We've got 15 minutes before the transmitter activates," Diana reminded them as they ran. "We need to be far away when it happens." They reached the docking port only to find 2 Syraxians guarding their ship. Without hesitation, Kelly charged forward. The surprised aliens couldn't react fast enough. In moments, the way was clear. "Everyone on board," Eric said. "We're getting out of here." They piled into the scout ship. Eric fired up the engines while Diana worked to disengage the docking clamps. The clock was ticking. 10 minutes remaining, she said. The scout ship broke free and shot away from the alien vessel. Behind them, the Syraxian ship turned its weapons toward them, but it was too late. They were already speeding toward Earth, and the countdown continued. The scout ship raced away from the alien vessel. Lieutenant Commander Eric Barnes pushed the engines to their limit. They had less than 10 minutes before the transmitter activated, and they needed to be as far away as possible. "They're following us," warned Paul as he watched the scanner. 3 smaller Cyraxian ships had launched from the larger vessel and were in pursuit. Diana kept her eyes on the timer. 8 minutes left. Eric flew low, skimming just above the mountains. The alien ships were faster, but they struggled with Earth's atmosphere and gravity. Eric used this to his advantage, making sharp turns between peaks and diving through narrow valleys. "Hold on," he shouted as he pulled the ship into a steep dive. The alien crafts tried to follow, but one crashed into a mountainside, exploding in a ball of blue fire. Back at the underground facility in Houston, Dr. Samuel Carter and his team watched satellite feeds of the chase. They could do nothing but wait and hope. "The transmitter is still active," Grace reported. "Signal is stable." Samuel nodded. "Everything depends on it staying that way for the next 7 minutes." All around the world, the coordinated attack continued. What remained of Earth's military forces engaged the Cyraxian fleet, not to win but to distract. Fighter jets, naval vessels, and ground-based weapons all fired at once. Most did no damage against the alien shields, but that wasn't the point. They just needed to keep the aliens busy. The USS Defiant took heavy damage as it led the naval assault. Commander Olivia Martinez stood firm on the bridge even as explosions rocked the ship. "Keep firing," she ordered. "Don't let up." In the command ship of the Cyraxian fleet, Admiral Krasitol received reports of the human counterattack. He was not concerned. Their primitive weapons could not penetrate Cyraxian shields. He was more interested in the strange energy reading detected on one of his smaller vessels. "What is this signal?" he demanded of his science officer. "Unknown, Admiral. It appears to be coming from within the ship." Krasitol's eyes narrowed. "Scan all vessels for similar readings. This may be some human trick." But it was too late. The timer on Diana's transmitter reached 0. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then the electromagnetic pulse began to build. It started small, just a tiny fluctuation in the alien ship's systems, but it grew quickly, feeding off the ship's own power. The pulse matched exactly the frequency of the shield generator's vulnerable point. It created a feedback loop that grew stronger with each cycle. Energy began to surge through the Cyraxian network, jumping from ship to ship through their linked communication system. On the scout ship, Eric and his team saw the first effects. The alien vessel they had infiltrated began to drift slightly, its engines sputtering. "It's working," Diana said with a mix of relief and excitement. "The pulse is disrupting their systems." The remaining 2 pursuit ships suddenly broke off their chase. Their weapons powered down and they turned back toward their mothership. But they were too late. The pulse had already spread to them as well. Samuel watched the satellite feeds with growing hope. "The pulse is spreading faster than we predicted. It's jumping from ship to ship through their communication network." Grace pointed to new readings on her screen. "Their shields are failing. All over the world, Cyraxian shields are going down." Admiral Johnson didn't wait. He immediately sent the order to all military forces. "Cyraxian shields down. Weapons free. Target engines and weapon systems." Earth's fighters and missiles, previously useless against the alien shields, now found their targets. Explosions bloomed across the hulls of Cyraxian ships worldwide. The USS Defiant, despite its damage, launched its remaining missiles at the now vulnerable alien vessel. The weapons struck true, disabling the ship's main engines. "Direct hits," reported Ryan Clark. "Their weapons are offline." Olivia allowed herself a small smile. "Push the advantage. Don't give them time to recover." In the Cyraxian command ship, chaos reigned. Admiral Kraz's tool shouted orders as systems failed around him. "Restore the shields. Override the communication network. Launch all fighters." But nothing worked. The pulse had infected every system, creating cascading failures throughout the fleet. Ships that tried to flee Earth's atmosphere found their navigation systems failing, sending them crashing back down or drifting helplessly in space. Krastul could not believe what was happening. The humans, a primitive species by Cyraxian standards, had found a weakness in their technology that no other conquered world had discovered, and they had exploited it perfectly. "How is this possible?" he demanded. These primitives couldn't possibly understand our technology this quickly. His science officer had no answer. The Syraxians had become complacent after centuries of easy conquests. They had never encountered a species that could adapt so rapidly to new threats. Eric's team had landed their scout ship safely in a clearing. They watched as the alien vessel they had infiltrated lost power and began to descend slowly toward the ground. It made a controlled but heavy landing in an empty field, crushing trees and digging a deep furrow in the earth. "We did it," Kelly said quietly. "We actually did it." Paul nodded. "One ship down. How many more to go?" Diana checked her communications device. Reports coming in from all over. The pulse worked better than we hoped. It's affecting every Syraxian ship in orbit or atmosphere. "What about the ones that were higher up outside our atmosphere?" Eric asked. "They're trying to run," Diana replied. "But they're having navigation problems too. The pulse traveled through their entire network." The battle was not over, but the tide had turned. For the first time since the invasion began, humans had the upper hand. Samuel and Grace monitored the situation from Houston. The pulse had worked even better than they had hoped. The Syraxian fleet was crippled, their advanced technology turned against them. "We need to capitalize on this," Samuel said, "before they find a way to counter the pulse." Admiral Johnson agreed. He ordered all remaining forces to focus on disabling the Syraxian command ship. If they could capture Admiral Kraz's tool, they might be able to force a surrender. Captain William Harris led a cyber team that used the disruption in the alien network to plant a virus of their own design. It locked the Syraxians out of their own weapon systems, rendering the ships defenseless. The Syraxian command ship, the largest of the alien vessels, hovered over New York City. With its shields down and weapons offline, it was still dangerous, due to its sheer size. If it fell on the city, millions would die. Commander Martinez and the USS Defiant joined other naval vessels in the Atlantic Ocean. They fired specialized harpoon missiles that attached to the command ship's hull. Powerful cables connected to ships below helped stabilize the massive vessel, preventing it from falling onto the city. "Guide it toward the ocean," Admiral Johnson ordered. "Keep it away from populated areas." The combined pull of dozens of ships slowly moved the alien command ship away from New York and toward the open Atlantic. It was like ants moving an elephant, but it worked. Inch by inch, the massive vessel drifted over the water. Inside, Admiral Kraztoul realized the battle was lost. The humans had done the impossible. They had defeated the mighty Syraxian Empire with a single brilliant counterstrike. "Prepare escape pods," he ordered his remaining officers. "We must return to the homeworld with news of this defeat." But even the escape pods failed to launch. The humans had thought of everything. The Syraxian command ship finally lost all power. It descended slowly into the Atlantic Ocean, creating massive waves as it hit the water. But thanks to the coordinated effort of Earth's forces, no civilians were harmed. As reports came in from around the world, the truth became clear. In less than an hour, humanity had turned certain defeat into victory. The Syraxian invasion force was neutralized. Eric and his team were picked up by a military helicopter. As they flew over the landscape, they saw the results of their mission. Alien ships had fallen everywhere, most intact enough for humans to study and learn from. "What do you think they'll do now?" Kelly asked. "The rest of the Syraxian Empire. Eric looked out at the horizon where the sun was beginning to set. "They'll think twice before attacking Earth again, that's for sure." 2 weeks after what people now called the 48-hour war, Dr. Samuel Carter stood on a beach watching waves crash against the massive Syraxian command ship. The alien vessel sat half-submerged in the Atlantic Ocean. Teams of scientists and engineers moved in and out of it like ants, studying every piece of technology they could find. "Amazing, isn't it?" Grace said as she joined him on the sand. 2 weeks ago we thought we were done for. Now we're taking apart their ships and learning all their secrets." Samuel nodded. "They had no idea what they were getting into when they attacked us." All around the world, similar scenes played out. Fallen Syraxian ships became research sites. Governments that had been enemies before the invasion now worked together. The alien attack had united humanity in a way nothing else could have. Commander Olivia Martinez had been promoted to captain for her role in the battle. The USS Defiant was being repaired, and soon she would command a new mission: to study the Siraxian ships that had crashed in orbit around Earth. "We've identified 17 ships in stable orbits," Admiral Johnson told her during a meeting at the newly rebuilt Pentagon. "Your job is to reach them, secure them, and bring back anything useful." Olivia looked at the images of the alien vessels floating in space. "Will the Defiant be able to reach orbit?" The Admiral smiled. "Not the old Defiant. We're building something new using Siraxian technology. You'll be the first to command a human ship that can reach space easily." Meanwhile, Captain William Harris led the effort to understand alien computer systems. His team worked day and night to translate Siraxian data. What they found was eye-opening. "They've been doing this for centuries," he explained during a United Nations briefing. "The Siraxian Empire has conquered 17 other worlds before they reached Earth. None of those worlds managed to fight back effectively." "What made us different?" asked the Secretary General. "Speed of adaptation," William replied. "According to their records, most species take months or years to understand new technology. We did it in days. They simply weren't prepared for that." The captured Siraxians, including Admiral Krastol, were held in special facilities. At first, they refused to communicate. They couldn't understand how their perfect invasion had failed. But as time passed, some began to talk. Dr. Lisa Patel led the team that interviewed them. "They're not evil exactly," she reported. "Just very, very arrogant. They truly believed no species could challenge them technologically. They've never encountered anyone like us before." One young Siraxian scientist was more cooperative than the others. He explained that the Empire had grown lazy and complacent. They used the same tactics on every world, never expecting resistance. Earth had shocked them to their core. "Are they coming back?" Admiral Johnson asked during a private meeting with the President. "Will the rest of their empire attack us again?" The intelligence gathered from captured Siraxians and their computers painted an interesting picture. The invasion fleet was actually most of their military force. The Empire ruled through fear and the appearance of invincibility, not through actual strength. "They're spread thin," explained Major Alan Rodriguez, who had been studying Siraxian military records. "The 17 worlds they control require constant presence to prevent rebellion. They sent almost everything they had to Earth, believing it would be an easy conquest. So we've crippled them," the President said. "More than that," Alan replied. "We've shown the other conquered worlds that the Siraxians can be defeated. According to their own communications, rebellions have already started on at least 3 planets." The biggest prize from the invasion was the technology. Humans learned quickly. Within weeks, they understood how Siraxian ships worked. Within months, they would build their own. Captain Julia Bennett, a brilliant engineer who had led fighter squadrons during the war, was placed in charge of the reverse engineering program. She gathered the best minds from around the world to work on the project. "We're not just copying their technology," she explained to Samuel during a tour of the new facility built in New Mexico. "We're improving it, fixing the flaws that we exploited during the invasion." Samuel was impressed with the progress. Where the Siraxians had stagnated, humans raced forward. The shield technology that had failed the aliens was already being enhanced and strengthened. "How long until we have our own ships?" he asked. "The first prototype is almost ready," Julia said with pride. "We're calling it Phoenix." 6 months after the invasion, the Phoenix was completed. It looked different from Siraxian ships, with a sleeker design that reflected human aesthetics. But inside, it contained the best of both worlds: alien technology enhanced by human innovation. Olivia Martinez was given command of the ship. Her crew included Eric Barnes as pilot, Diana Wright as communications officer, and Dr. Samuel Carter as chief scientist. Their mission was to explore the solar system as a first step before venturing to the stars. On the day of the launch, thousands gathered to watch. The Phoenix sat on its launch pad, gleaming in the morning sun. Unlike the rockets of old, it would rise silently using gravity manipulation technology taken from the Siraxians. Admiral Johnson gave a short speech before the launch. 6 months ago, we faced extinction. Today, we take our first step to the stars. The Siraxians thought they were gods among the stars, but they had never met humans before. The Phoenix rose slowly at first, then faster, leaving Earth's atmosphere in minutes rather than the struggling ascent of old rockets. On the bridge, Olivia watched as her home planet grew smaller below them. Course set for Mars, Eric reported. All systems normal. Samuel stood by a window, watching Earth recede. I never thought I'd see this view in my lifetime. Diana joined him. What do you think the Siraxians are thinking right now, as they watch us take their technology and improve it? They're probably terrified, Samuel said with a small smile. And they should be. We're coming for them next. But it wasn't just about revenge. From the captured Siraxians, humans had learned there were other civilizations in the galaxy. Some were friendly, some were not. Some were even more powerful than the Siraxian Empire. We need to be ready, Admiral Johnson had said during the final briefing. Next time, we won't be caught by surprise. Humans worked together to build a defense system around Earth. They established bases on the Moon and Mars. They sent probes to the outer planets. And they prepared ships that could travel to other stars. The Siraxian prisoners watched these developments with disbelief. Their society had taken centuries to develop what humans accomplished in months. You don't understand what you've done, Admiral Krasatul told his human guards one day. You've announced your presence to the galaxy. Others will come. Let them come, replied the guard. We'll be ready. 1 year after the invasion, the Phoenix returned from its tour of the solar system. As it approached Earth, Olivia saw the changes, orbital stations, defense platforms, and other ships under construction. Looks like we've been busy while we were gone, she said to her crew. Samuel nodded. This is just the beginning. The Siraxians attacking Earth was the worst mistake they ever made, but for us, it was the push we needed to reach for the stars. 3. Phoenix docked at the new space station named Unity. Representatives from all nations waited to hear their report and to plan the next mission. This time, they would go beyond the solar system. This time, they would take the fight to the Siraxian homeworld. Not for revenge, but to free the 17 worlds under their control. Earth would not stand by while others suffered as they almost had. The Empire had attacked Earth expecting an easy victory. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant. Their first mistake had been attacking Earth. Their last mistake was thinking humans would ever give up.